You're listening to Middle-Age Movie Reviews.
Hello, welcome to the Middle-Age Movies Podcast. Three guys saying, do not touch the glass. Do not approach the glass. You pass him nothing but soft paper. No pencils or pens. No staples or paper clips in his paper. Use the sliding food carrier, no exceptions. If he attempts to pass you anything, do not accept it. Do you understand me? My name is Tim, and my podcasting partners are
Joey,
Dungeon Master Rick,
and joining us tonight, a man who oddly likes to pass out lotion as gifts. From the MCU's Bleeding Edge YouTube channel, it's Jeff. Say hello, Jeff.
Hello, Jeff.
All right. Also joining us tonight, a man who often likes to have old friends for dinner. From the Cybernetic Shark and MCU's Bleeding Edge YouTube channels, it's Cyber. Say hello, Cyber.
Salutations, snacks.
All right, Joey. Why don't you tell us what FBI highlight reel we're watching tonight?
Tonight we are watching the 1991 movie The Silence of the Lambs, number 830 from the book of 1001 Movies You Should Watch Before You Die, written by Thomas Harris and Ted Talley, directed by Johnathan Demme, and starring Jodie Foster, Anthony Hopkins, and Scott Glenn.
All right. Well, Rick, as our connoisseur of anime awesomeness, I have to ask, if The Silence of the Lambs was an anime instead of a film, what do you think its descriptive anime title would be?
Okay, yes. I totally have this, okay? If this was made into some sort of anime adaptation, then yes, I have the name. For sure, 1000%. It would be called, or it would have been called, an FBI trainee interviews an insane cannibalistic psychiatrist to help her catch another psychotic killer while breaking the most explicit rules of interviewing a lunatic.
Very nice. Very nice. So, gentlemen, when was the first time you watched The Silence of the Lambs? And Cyber, let's go ahead and start with you.
All right. So the first time I saw Silence of the Lambs, it was well after it had come out in 91. Probably at least a decade later. So I think was the first time I actually saw it. I rented it from the library, and I kept hearing everyone say, oh, it's such a great film. It's so good. You got to see it. You got to see Anthony Hopkins. You got to see Jodie Foster, this and that. And so I finally got around to seeing it, and it was kind of one of those ones that was on the back burner. I always looked at it going, it's one of those Oscar bait films. I felt like, it's probably not really that good. But then after watching it, I was like, wow, this actually deserved every single one of those Oscars that won in 92. This was just a really well done film. And I remember really enjoying it the first time. I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, ooh, I wonder what I'm going to notice every single time I watch this, because I could tell this was a film that you would see different things every time you watch it. You would catch like little things that maybe Lecter did, or maybe Clarice did, or, Buffalo Bill and stuff like that. It was actually all the hype that they were giving it. I had a really great first experience watching this, about 20 plus years ago. And it was really fun. I really enjoyed it.
All right. Well, Jeff, what was your experience? When was the first time you watched it?
Lord, honestly, Tim, if I had to try to guesstimate, I would probably say maybe I saw it the first time when it came out on HBO after it left the theaters, whatever that was. Watched it many times over the years as a child, and it still holds up really well. It's really well paced and great watch overall. So, classic movie that I've always enjoyed all the way up from childhood to now. Jodie Foster is very endearing in this role, and it's well-deserved, So, all good memories about this movie for the most part, that I can remember. And probably one of the first really good films I ever saw as a kid that I was actually cognizant that it was really good. An important film from that standpoint.
All right. Well, seeing how you started in your childhood, Rick, I imagine this was out in your childhood as well. So when was the first time you watched this?
This one for me, unfortunately, when I first watched this one, I was too young to actually get it. I remember watching it. I must have been 10 or something years old. I remember my parents were super jazzed about this one. And I do recall watching it, but I think I was in that middle school age when anything that wasn't super cool was super dumb. So
stupid dumb movie.
So yeah, man, I do remember watching it. I do remember being like, this is dumb. But when we were talking about watching it for this week, I was actually excited because, you know, I knew that I was a, you know, dumb idiot child back when I had the pleasure to first watch this, and too young to fully appreciate the gravity here. So yeah, I watched it again. Very, very excited. Actually, I was excited, and I'm still excited to talk about this one.
All right. Joey, who I'm sure doesn't believe this is a stupid, dumb movie, being the horror aficionado that he is. So, Joey, when was the first time you watched The Silence of the Lambs?
VHS. I was not old enough to be going to the theater to see this, and my God, it scared the shit out of me. I think my sister rented it and brought it home. I was aware it was nominated for a lot of awards, but I don't know if I was aware how significant that was, and that it ended up. I think it's the first and only horror movie that's won Best Picture. And that may change because we've got a horror movie that's breaking records, oddly. Sinners is officially nominated for the most Academy Awards ever for a movie, any movie, in the most categories in a year. It could be that gets snubbed the most in a year as well. This movie is high art. You can watch it as a popcorn movie. I'm sure they sold lots of popcorn to go see it. This one's a thinker. And from the looks of everything, often a stinker. People are breaking out the Noxzema or whatever it is that they're rubbing under their nose. Wait. What is it? What do people put in their throats to clear their?
It's usually Vicks is what they're putting under their nose.
Like Vicks Vapor Rub. Yeah, I don't know if it's Vicks Vapor Rub, but they're definitely breaking out the Vicks Vapor Rub under their noses in this movie. Lots of visuals that just if you've ever discovered something dead, all those smellers are coming back to you as you watch this one. Dare I say it? I would watch another Silence of the Lambs movie if someone would make one with Anthony Hopkins before he dies.
Yeah, I agree. Oddly enough, for myself though, with this movie, I have owned this movie for a very long time, and I thought I had watched it. It ends up this is my first viewing ever of this movie. I feel like I've watched it just because the memes and the other films, such as like this, the scary movies and stuff, that has copied all the different scenes in this, the Hannibal Lecture stuff.
You could have seen parts of it on TV too, because this one gets heavy TV play. And even though for most people it's not rewatchable, when I see it on TV, I end up like finishing the fucking movie. So my guess is you've seen parts of it.
What definitively told me I didn't was I never knew it puts the lotion on its skin. I had no idea where that came from. Man, I've seen that in Clerks. I've seen it in all kinds of different films over the years and TV shows and stuff.
Cable Guy.
Yeah. And I'd seen it so much. I'm like, I don't know where that comes from. And finally I'm watching this, I'm like, oh crap, this is where it comes from. So I know I've never watched this movie, or at least have only seen bits and pieces. And most of it I feel like I've just seen because it's been in other films and TV series. So tonight was my first viewing and talking with you guys. I guess I'll be able to get that fresh perspective on a movie that I damn well should have watched 20, 25, 30 years ago easily. So it's going to be kind of fun to discuss this and hear what you guys have to say about it. Now, as you guys, I'm sure, have all deduced, Matthew is not with us. It seems like he can only handle doing so many horror films a year, and then he hands the reins over to me. Apparently, The Silence of the Lambs is too unsettling for him, so I have taken the helm this evening as your moderator. So with that in mind, I would like to pass off Matt's duties, reading the synopsis, to Joey. If you're willing, sir, I would like you to read the synopsis tonight as Dr. Hannibal Lecter, as he plays head games with Clarice, as he discusses the synopsis.
Hello, Clarice.
You must be Director Jack Crawford's next desperate attempt to enlist my help in solving the Buffalo Bill serial killer case. Tell me, did he send you because of your skill, or does he hope your vulnerabilities will pique my interest in a game of cat and mouse? How about it, Clarice? Are you willing to share yourself with me? A bit of quid pro quo, if you will. Why, yes, Dr. Lecter. But please excuse my scent. I've been working long hours, and I haven't had the luxury of a shower today. Excellent, Clarice. But I require one other accommodation. A room with a view. All you need to know to catch Buffalo Bill is in your case file. You really don't know how close you are. Nonetheless, Bill was never a patient of mine, but the lover of one. I have guided you along your path of discovery per our agreement, but Dr. Chilton has indicated a double cross is at play. It appears his room with a view was genuine, while yours was not. But you did share your worst childhood memory, the slaughtering of the lambs at your family's farm. So, Clarice, I will tell you, we covet what we see every day. Use this to solve the crime, Clarice, and maybe, just maybe, lambs will stop crying. Now fly back to school, little starling. Fly, fly, fly.
Very nice, Joey. Very nicely done. Creepy and nice.
That's really good, man. If I could whistle really good, I would.
Very well done, sir.
This is performed in front of a live studio audience.
Yes.
That was very good, sir.
Yeah, Cyber, you would have been my second choice. I had no idea you had a little, Lecter in you as well. So we'll keep that in mind should we ever do any of the other films. But I believe we must still, as good as that performance was, we must compare it to the actual trailer. So, gentlemen, if you will, let's all feast our eyes on the original trailer and see how Joey's performance compares.
The missing girl is now believed to have been kidnapped by the serial killer known only as Buffalo Bill.
We're interviewing all the serial killers now in custody for a psychobehavioral profile.
Who's the subject?
The psychiatrist Hannibal Lecter.
Lecter is our most prized asset.
Be very careful. Believe me, you don't want Hannibal Lecter inside your head.
Agent Starling. Why do you think he removes their skins?
You know who he is, don't you?
Tick-tock, 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 tick-tock.
Got a real taste for it now. He'll never stop.
Spooky ooky.
Yeah, so there we go. There's a trailer. And I think I want to turn this over to Jeff first because he is not a fan of the 80s and 90s trailers. So, Jeff, how do you feel? I mean, did this step up enough compared to today's trailers to intrigue you?
I mean, not really. It's, just like a touched up trailer from back in the day. You know what I'm saying?
It wasn't original either. It says winner of 5 Academy Awards.
Yeah, that was definitely something that they redid. It's an okay trailer, I guess. I mean, I don't really know what to say. I mean, it's not anything too spectacular. I don't know. It's just okay, I guess. I don't really know, sir.
Man, you are a hard audience. All right, Cyber, how about you, man? Yay or nay? Good trailer? Bad trailer? Was Joey better? Where are you sitting with it?
Well, I have to give props to Joey for such a great performance. He's not as great as me, but, I have to give him props. But anyways, I think this is a solid recreation trailer. And I think it's a well-edited trailer. Some of the fact that it gives you highlights of a lot of great parts, lots of great scenes from the film. And I think it's a very fun trailer. So I think that this one overall was a decent trailer and really, I feel, really hypes up people to see Silence of the Lambs.
All right. Well, Rick, how about you? Is this a trailer that would have pulled you in had you seen it on a VHS tape that you were watching from the old Blockbuster?
Yeah, probably. Although, I like my VHS Blockbuster type style trailers. It's got to start with something along the lines of, in a world, there's a killer out there on the loose. I mean, that's going to get me into the movie theater to go rent it, okay? It was definitely good, but I don't know if it was better than Joey's.
Yeah.
Joey's was pretty good, man. Joey, you got that voice down pretty darn good, man.
I've got that Riz, as the kids say.
I don't know if I'd call it Riz. I'd call it that voice, though.
Let's just dive into the story. So it looks like we open the film with Jack Crawford, the head of the FBI's Behavioral Sciences Unit, who's attempting to apprehend a serial killer known as Buffalo Bill. Immense public pressure, coupled with his desperate need to capture the killer, causes Crawford to take a high-risk gamble. He enlists the help of Clarise Starling, one of the top trainees enrolled at the FBI's Quantico Academy. He sends her to interview Dr. Hannibal Lecter, a brilliant and cannibalistic psychiatrist imprisoned at the Baltimore State Hospital for the criminally insane. Under the guise of soliciting his participation in a psychological survey, Crawford secretly aims to leverage Lecter's insights to apprehend Buffalo Bill. Though Lecter has adamantly refused to help Crawford in the past, he hopes Clarice's pure morality, intellectual fortitude, and vulnerabilities stemming from a childhood trauma will intrigue Lecter enough to let his guard down and help with the case. So, Cyber, what's your thoughts on the beginning of the film?
The beginning of the film is really intriguing. I found it a great way to segue and start this film into the story of Hannibal Lecter, Buffalo Bill, Clarice. I think that overall, how it begins is kind of interesting because you get right into the FBI already in this total crazy serial killer case that they're already working on. We're going to get into that, and I think that was kind of an interesting way of starting it off. But that whole kind of training montage of Clarice at the beginning, I think, is very interesting. Her running through the forest, watching Jodie Foster work out, and showing her kind of adaptability to environments and stuff like that. But this film has such a great cast between Jodie Foster herself and Anthony Hopkins and so forth. But, I think that the guy that plays the main FBI agent, Scott Glenn, he is such a great actor, and I absolutely love him as this character. And I don't think a lot of people mention him when they're talking about Silent Sam. They always talk about Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster, really. But I don't think Scott Glenn gets enough credit for how awesome he was as the captain. And I think he did a great job and works out really well for the film. I think that this film would have been very interesting if it had gone through with what originally was planned. I think a lot of people know that Gene Hackman bought the rights to Silence of the Lambs and was actually supposed to write, direct, and act as Hannibal Lecter in this film. But that ended up falling through.
Gene Hackman, he is Gene Hackman, but holy shit, he should have nothing to do with Hannibal Lecter. Maybe one of the investigators.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Anthony Hopkins as Lecter versus a Gene Hackman Lecter. I just don't see it. I mean, even when when Manhunter came out in '86 with Brian Cox playing Lecter, I thought he did a decent job. But I don't. After seeing Hopkins play this character, I can't see anybody else play the character because he just was so damn good at it. His role in the film was only 16 minutes long, and he won the Oscar for it. I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, and I think Jimmy Hackman, too, was scared to do it because he'd already played a bad guy, and he didn't want to keep diving down into that darkness, kind of be typecast as a super crazy evil character. So he backed out of his own accord, I believe, on that one. He decided that he did not want to get that deep into being a psychopath. Well, how about you, Jeff? I know you're not a big fan of the 90s trailers, but how about the 90s movie?
The opening's great. It's one of the best FBI training montages probably ever done, even though it's kind of old fashioned. Still pretty solid. Jodie Foster pulls it off really well. And Scott Glenn's great in this film. He does a great job with his character. I also like the way that the movie doesn't fuck around, that it gets right to the main case. They delve right into Buffalo Bill right from jump, and that helps the movie establishes the bad guy for the film. Remains entertaining. This is like prime Jodie Foster. She was like for this role. She makes for a great protagonist for the film overall. She's a very very solid actress. It's a great opening. It's really solid stuff.
Okay, so let's go on to you, Rick. What did you think?
Yeah, pretty good. It's definitely pretty good. You guys know that I am a very keen observer of how female protagonist filling the role of a physical dominant is portrayed, and in this particular case, I think they did pretty good job. That was true to nature, in that she's a really petite lady, and when it comes to her physical aspects of training, she sucks compared to the rest of the people around her. But she's no slouch when it comes to her area of expertise. You know, she's definitely has the credentials of criminal justice and psychology and things like that. So she knows how to handle herself on a more of a mental and social realm, more than a physical realm. I do really appreciate how they're portraying her, as she has these clear strengths, and when compared to other potential agents, that she has some work to be done in order to shore up the difference. And as we proceed in the film, we get to see where it leads us. And the other thing, I don't know if you guys caught this, but Howard Shore is in charge of the score here. And I tell you what, man, that really changes to the trajectory of every scene where something serious is happening. Whenever they start talking about killing, crime, or psychotic type of behavior, then the score kicks in, and it just diametrically changes what is happening on screen. I imagine you would get a completely different experience if the score was not in this film.
All right. Well, how about you, Joey? You've watched a lot of films that center around the criminally insane and the psychiatrists who take care of them. How do you feel that The Silence of the Lambs compares to others that you've watched?
There's some unrealism to it. They're not going to be having these guys in a dungeon looking like room. It's more or less going to look like a hospital with fucking fluorescent lights everywhere. I mean, it is cinematic. It is a movie. The real thing's still a lot scarier. Anthony Hopkins' performance, while it is magnificent, it's a performance. It's a good introduction. He certainly is a bit aggressive. I think he should have been more hospitable off the bat with Agent Starling, since, you know, this is going to be his entertainment essentially. But things go pretty interesting when those two meet. I gotta say, Scott Glenn, wow. He and Anthony Hopkins getting up there. Scott Glenn just celebrated his 87th birthday last month in January 2026, and Anthony Hopkins in December 2025 turned 88. Yeah, if they're gonna do another Hannibal Lecter movie, they better do it fucking soon. I can't say that we get to enjoy Scott Glenn in any of the other movies. Jack Crawford's the one character I think he's played by a different person in anything and everything. I've never watched the Hannibal TV series. It's just one of those things I didn't have time for. I'm interested in what Cyber has to say about Mads Mikkelsen. Did you catch Hannibal?
So yes, I watched that show when it aired with my wife. We absolutely enjoyed it. We thought it was so good. And I think Mads Mikkelsen is such a great character actor. His portrayal of Lecter was really interesting. It was very far and different from, Anthony Hopkins' version, but I think he did such a great job of his own accords that it made his performance just as good as Anthony Hopkins.
Wow.
And I think that he himself just really embraced the character so well. His such deep accent, I think it played into making his character even more creepy in the TV series. And so I think it played out very well for him, because there were several scenes where you truly, absolutely hate him so bad because he did such a great job of portraying such an evil, sadistic character. Unfortunately for Anthony Hopkins, we get to see him for 16 minutes in Silence of the Lambs. Then, of course, we get to see him briefly in Red Dragon a little bit. We get the mention of him. And then, of course, Hannibal itself, they still don't go super deep into his character, whereas in Hannibal, the show, they did that. They go into him when he's younger, when he's like in his 30s. They were able to really engulf that character even more, giving it more of a story and arc to understand the character more. And so I think that's why I feel that Mads Mikkelsen's version of it is just as good, is because he was able to dive into the actual psyche of Hannibal versus, Anthony Hopkins. Hopkins, with what little knowledge he had of portraying the character, did an amazing job. But then Mads got to do it in such a different way that Brian Fuller just really, he developed that whole story so well. Yeah, if you ever get a chance to watch that show, it is so amazing. It's worth the 3 seasons it was on.
Interesting. So thank you. So according to Cyber, Mikkelsen and Hopkins are arguably a even keel, even quality performance.
Well, that was some pretty in-depth character analysis across the board for the the Hannibal legacy here. Outside of that, what I got to say as a first viewing, what really kind of sucked me into this is that they start off at Quantico, which is kind of amazing in itself because the FBI doesn't usually let people film at Quantico. And instead of doing the typical, late 80s, early 90s thing of having them start off with this huge action scene that they kind of wanted to do in the beginning. They wanted to have them doing some kind of training exercise where they're, clearing the buildings and stuff with Jodie Foster. And they do that a little later. They just kind of move the scene. But she convinced the director, Johnathan Demme, to not do that and just show her doing the normal training course and the mundane, training of an FBI agent. And even everything that she, as she goes along to meet him, it's just very plain and mundane and almost kind of disinteresting. And I think that worked. I mean, because it helped set up her resolve. And that's kind of what got her to roll anyway. He kind of hired her because, when he's seen her come down the corridor for the interview, her purposeful walk down the corridor to meet him, he was kind of like, this is it. This is my FBI agent. She convinced him to just let me do it this way. And let me show this character in this light instead of this 80s action thing. And so I kind of think it sets up the resolve of the character and the training that she's in, that she's not even truly an FBI agent yet. And she's kind of going to get this special assignment. So I thought that was kind of nice, that it leads into this film. It has a nice ramp up instead of just throwing you into a film, action horror, esque film. So I enjoyed that a lot about it. And it kind of drew me in as not being the typical, film that we're used to seeing during this era. Basically, what we're going to go to next is we're going to see Dr. Frederick Shilton, the facilities director, meets Clarice, and he's going to run her through the rules of engagement before we finally get to meet Hannibal Lecter for the first time. I'm going to warn you right now, there could be dire consequences if you don't heed these warnings. And he even does that little thing like, here's a picture of the last person that didn't listen to what we told you. And I love that they don't show us that. It just leaves it in your mind's eye as to what that could be. She gets to meet Lecter, and initially he's very courteous, but he grows dismissive, basically upon deducing Starling's ulterior motive. And as she departs, inmate Miggs flings some semen at her, provoking Lecter's disgust. And basically he summons her back, and he says, and kind of offers her a clue in the form of an anagram that leads her to the storage unit containing a severed head and a jar, which is later revealed to belong to Benjamin Raspale, a former patient of Lecter's, and whose killer is believed to be Buffalo Bill. And upon Starling's return, Lecter agrees to assist in the investigation, but only in a quid pro quo arrangement, requiring Starling to tell him about her personal life, something she was adamantly warned against doing, and she must also provide him a room with a view. Meanwhile, another victim is discovered with a death's head moth lodged in her throat, the same species later found inside the sever's head. Rick, what did you think of our initial meeting of, Hannibal Lecter, or Hannibal the Cannibal as he's known?
Hannibal the Cannibal. Yeah, I thought it was cool, man. I was like hook, line, and sinker. A little bit of Jodie Foster's acting kind of showed a little bit of her greenness, but it was okay. I mean, I overlooked it. I I don't know if it was the accent or something, but I don't know. It was still good. And I like how they had mentioned the rules. And it was like, unless I'm mistaken, they mentioned them a couple times.
Yeah.
And yet she still decides to just do her own fucking thing. You know? I mean,
right.
I get why she wanted to do her own thing or whatever. I found that was really, really, really cool the way it was written, because as soon as she came in to the interview, she tried to exert her authority, but immediately had Hannibal just completely just change that script all around. And he was calling the shots from the get-go, man. This dude was high on alert with manipulation, full-flown. Okay, he was straight up just like, nah, man, it's cool, but you're gonna be following my rules. You're in my space now. Okay, you're talking to the master of the minds here. And you could really, really tell, man, oh man, this guy was more than just a nutcase. He was fleshed out. And the portrayal on screen was, it was award-winning. It literally was award-winning. But it was more than that because it was meaningful. It was much more than that.
Yeah, it's interesting that you kind of bring up the accent thing with her. Anthony Hopkins, when he makes fun of that accent, basically ad-libbed that. And Jodie Foster got really aggravated and taken aback by it because she thought he was making fun of him. So a lot of the kind of aggravation and frustration she already has instantly is because of that. And afterwards, she kind of thanked him for doing that because it put her in the right state to look somewhat victimized almost immediately in their interactions. So it's kind of funny that you point that out. So how about you, Cyber? You got anything you want to throw in on that?
The fact that you mentioned that was ad-libbed by Anthony Hopkins about the accent, I absolutely love that. I think that's great that he was smart and looked ahead of it and think, hey, how can I get a most genuine reaction from Jodie Foster by making fun of her accent? And the fact that she took such offense to it cracks me up a little bit too at the same time, when Johnathan Demme himself was even originally thinking of not casting her because he thought her Boston accent and The Accused was horrible. I think between that and then him saying that just really got under her skin to cause her and got that great reaction, which is so real in the film. I think is just really fantastic. But, I think this portion of the film, too, just is another great addition to this that, moves the story along very well, gets you, into it. And at the same time, I love, too, how they don't show the picture, what happened to the last person that didn't listen. And I think that is very ominous. You can imagine whatever you want about it. And so I think that was a very clever thing by Johnathan Demme that just really played that scene very well, too. That first interaction with Lecter is just on point. One of the best scenes I feel in that entire film. It just makes it so realistic and made it seem like he really was a serial killer. Anthony Hopkins himself even said that some of the inspiration he took for Lecter was actually he had a friend that never really blinked and used that to make it seem like, he wasn't blinking in the film. He also was inspired with Lecter is that lizards, reptiles, only blink when they want to blink. They actually are able to control their blinking just like us. So I think that, and making his character even creepier, and especially in that beginning sequence when we first are introduced to him and seeing how he is, I think really plays really well to his characterization.
All right. Well, Jeff, I see you're back among us. Hopefully your microphone's working. What's your thoughts about our introduction to Hannibal the Cannibal?
I love all of the, crime detective, FBI aspect of this film. Is really solid. It's very real life, the desire to, garner information about other serial killers through serial killers and things like that. And in a hypothetical world, somebody as educated as Lecter would be very valuable to the FBI. There's some, there's some tangibility to this case. It has some real life, vibes to it. I think everybody's already talked about how great Anthony Hopkins is as Hannibal Lecter. Obviously, he's really good. I think Jodie Foster really kills it in those scenes where she's paired up with, Lecter, essentially. She's great. The entire tone of the caged area that fucking prisoners live around Lecter, I imagine it's gotta be pretty scary in real life for an FBI agent to have to go into places like that. I can't imagine, it'd be fucking crazy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? It's, really entertaining stuff.
All right. For a first viewing and getting introduced to the Hannibal character, I got to say, Anthony Hopkins brought it, man. The intensity that he brings to this character, even though, as Cyber pointed out, he's only on screen for like 16 minutes. You can tell Anthony Hopkins put the time in to study how to be this character. Not only with the blinking, as Cyber pointed out, but just he had to have spent time, studying other serial killers and prisoners and things like that, and I think even he said he kind of looked at Lecter as being, like a HAL 9000 in 2001: A Space Odyssey, a very highly complex, highly intelligent, highly logical killing machine that kind of knows everything that's going on around him. And so when Jodie Foster comes to question him, he picks up immediately, this is a fresh fish. This is somebody who's wet behind the ears, not got a lot of training, is going to try to show confidence, but doesn't really have it. And he just toys with that like a cat playing with a mouse. And wow, man, he really made you feel the intensity of the character and brings home that this guy's just a little off center and is just not right in so many ways that you can't even describe. I was really, really impressed with both of their performances. After their initial conversation, in the meantime, Buffalo Bill has abducted Catherine Martin, the daughter of U.S. Senator Ruth Martin. Starling returns to question Lecter again, more about the killer, and is confronted by an angry Dr. Shilton, who feels he's being purposely sidelined during the FBI's consultation with his patient on this high-profile Buffalo Bill case that, he wants to make sure that he gets some credit in. Starling reminds him that, he has no choice but to cooperate with the FBI, and Shilton begrudgingly allows her to continue. Crawford authorizes Starling to offer Lecter a fraudulent deal, a prisoner transfer in return for actionable intelligence. Lecter signs the deal, and when Starling begins to question him about Buffalo Bill, Lecter, of course, reminds her of the additional quid pro quo arrangement that they have and asks her about her parents. And so she basically reveals to him that her father was a police officer and was murdered when she was 10, leaving her orphan. In exchange, once Lecter gets this and kind of satiated right now, he reveals that Buffalo Bill lives his life as a transsexual, but due to psychological instability, he has most likely been rejected for gender reassignment surgery at all the 3 major sex reassignment clinics in the area. And unbeknownst to Starling, Shilton records the conversation and later exposes her deceit, offering Lecter a new arrangement, relocation to Tennessee in exchange for information. Lecter complies, and unnoticed by the exuberant Shilton, he hides a pen Shilton carelessly leaves on his bed in his cell. And before he's flown to Memphis, he basically hides it on his body. And then once there, he provides Senator Martin with accurate details about Buffalo Bill's appearance, but he falsely identifies him as Lewis' friend. How do you guys feel about him toying with Clarice and then having, Shilton, who he also very much dislikes, try to step in and make himself famous for solving this case using what he's going to get from the Hannibal Lecture here?
I thought that it was very clever of Hannibal. I mean, he is clearly very, very observant. He can notice details in the physical manifestations, but he also can notice things that are going on in people's heads. He was a psychiatrist, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
I mean, he gets it, man. She is trying to make a name for herself. So he's basically leveraging her own ambitions against her. And he's getting her to do basically what he wants. I mean, he literally is manipulating her against her better judgment. She wants to do something here. She wants to make a difference, or she wants to get a name. Whatever this particular side of her ambition is, willing her to break the rules in order to get the to be able to justify these means, in hopes that, she's going to be able to save this girl. And look, for the record, I don't know what the hell this lady is thinking. I don't know. I'm not a female, so I don't know. But even myself, man, I'm not getting in no random dude's van to help him get some couch or chair or whatever into his van. Like, no, man, I'm not doing that. Or my knee hurts, or make up some excuse, or just like, nah, man, if you want to press the issue, fucking do it yourself.
Right.
fuck you then. I'm not going in a goddamn van, okay? That was so dumb. That was careless. That was dumb. And what's more, her parent is a senator? What? Like, what kind of... How is she helping her daughter? Like, is it one of those things where she's like, you're going to bring yourself up from your own bootstraps, lady? Like, what the hell, man? What the hell? How are you going to use the levers of power only when it actually comes to your daughter and you don't give a shit about anyone else's? Fuck that, man.
I think we've hit a nerve with Rick here, but he does have an awesome point that, if life has taught us anything, you stay the hell away from vans. Just don't go near them. There's no candy or couches worth, helping or getting into them for in this world.
When my son was younger and he used to have to walk home from the bus, that was a thing, man. He was like always staying away from vans. If there was a van in the neighborhood, he was clocking it, dude. He was like, all right, that's trouble right there.
Right. That's a smart boy. All right, Joy. What's your thought on the van situation and this scene itself?
It was so clever. Clearly he'd been stalking her. They introduced the night vision goggles, but he clearly didn't need them in that scene. But that's just the setup for later. I thought he was very clever in that Bill, as we're calling him, he'd been watching her and he knew that she was empathetic and a kind person. And so that was part of his lure, is that he's like, I'm in a bad way and I'm trying to move something all by myself and I'm kind of hurt. I'm having a real tough time with this. And he knew she was going to come over to him.
Joey, there's actually truth in this. They've done studies where they've interviewed these type of people. And apparently there are specific mannerisms that are exhibited by, in particular, females, but that make them targets. And it's not random either. It is specific mannerisms that certain females exhibit that identify them as targets. So they did this study where they asked numerous predators and they identified, strangely enough, the same individuals almost exactly for who they would target. So
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I think he was targeting her because she was overweight.
Well, sure.
But I think he planned that particular ruse to get her in there based on what he had observed about her. And I don't think he had any fucking clue her mom was a senator. So he obviously didn't do that much research. But they already said he's getting lazy. So like he used to weigh people down to be at the bottom of the river. Now he just doesn't give a fuck. He's getting sloppy. But it's a scene that like makes you feel for her character because she is such a nice person that she's going to help him. Even if that means, not thinking this through and end up, doing something very stupid and bad for her health. It's like, no, you do not get in the fucking guy's van. It could have been another guy in there waiting for her. But then again, she might not think of herself as somebody getting preyed upon because she's heavier and people don't hit on her and people don't stalk her like so many other women because she's a big girl. I don't know. But anyways, it's a fucking creepy ass scene and it makes you feel like anybody can be taken advantage of.
I think it's safe to say that, when those guys are looking for the targets, they're staying, firmly away from the Ronda Rousey people of the world. They're like, I think that chick can bench press me. So I'm going to pass and I'm going to look for somebody a little bit more squishy. That might be an easier prey. So Cyber, what do you think about this scene in particular?
So this scene is really when you get your first real taste of Buffalo Bill. You get to see kind of like him in action, kind of his, motor and rim die, and all that kind of good stuff, But as Joey had mentioned, yes, this girl was picked because she was a bigger girl. And this actress who plays Catherine, she actually had to gain 25 pounds to play this character. And she actually got advice from Vincent D'Onofrio because they worked in a acting class together at the time. And he mentioned to her, ask the producer for a credit card. So they have to pay for you to get heavy because she only got the role if she could gain 25 pounds. This beginning scene really defines kind of, this actress's ability and how she had to gain that weight, and really defines overall what Bill's kind of target women are. I think that Ted Levine does a great part, in the sequence. I love how he starts off, how he's got the cast on. Ted Levine actually has said in the past that he actually had taken 3 serial killers that he decided that he was going to imitate to create the Bill character. Those 3 guys were Ted Bundy. That was what the cast was referring to. He also, Ed Gaines, because of the skin thing. And then there was one other guy that he had came up with that I had never heard of the guy before. Gary Heindick, who would entrap his female victims in specially made basements. We see Bill, he has the victims down in that hole and telling them to put the lotion on the skin. They put the lotion on the skin. This kind of creation of this beginning part, even though we haven't seen most of that yet in the film, right off the bat, you could tell that this guy is some crazy-ass serial killer. And I think that they do such a great job here bringing that to life and push us forward into who this Buffalo Bill they've been talking about is all about.
All right. How about you, Jeff? Any thoughts on the kidnapping or the introduction to Buffalo Bill?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great abduction. Rick's right. The chick in the movie is very stupid. Without question. I mean, Rick probably nailed it on the head pretty well. I mean, she makes a very dumb fucking move.
Jeff, in the words of Dark Helmet, evil always wins because good is stupid.
Well, your way to put that is her heart's bigger than her brain.
Yeah. I mean,
and she was thinking with her heart, not her head.
Yeah, it was not a smart move on her part, getting in that van like that at all. She really did, unfortunately, kind of set herself up for failure in all reality. It's still obviously not cool what Buffalo Bill's out there doing, like, to women, grabbing them and beating them up and shit, and throwing them down that hole. I don't know how the fuck he gets those women down there. It can't be comfortable getting dropped down into that fucking hole. You know what I'm saying?
He reinforced the pail that he was using for them.
Yeah, but even to get them down?
It was a series of pulleys. I don't know what that's from, but I just like saying it. He used a series of pulleys.
So he's majoring in being a psycho and minoring in engineering is what you're saying?
I guess so. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, he's definitely got a minor in engineering.
I've never noticed that.
No, I know exactly what happened. What they did is they actually used the dumbwaiter from that movie, or that TV show. What was it called? Webster? I don't know if you guys remember that. The little kid, he would use the dumb waiter, and get all up and down the house.
I don't know.
That was a weird show. They ended up finding out there was an elderly couple living in like a basement they didn't know about. That's a rabbit hole for another podcast.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Webster. I don't think it's equally as creepy as Silence of the Lambs, but it's the creepiest child sitcom starring a dwarf.
Well, I'm with Jeff. I don't know how he's getting him down there either. I think he's just pushing because really he doesn't care if they get hurt. We got a few other little things in this scene that we probably should talk about maybe a little bit more in depth, because we also get the revelation that Buffalo Bill is transsexual in this. And
Hannibal said he wasn't a true transsexual.
Right.
That he was like mixed up or whatever. Because like he said, they're usually very passive. And then he gets back into that, how that screwed up his whole plan to transition, because they would have rejected him based on some kind of violent traumatic past.
I just thought it was kind of interesting that he was able to come to that conclusion without anything else. He just all of a sudden it's just there. It's just kind of in your face. He's like, well, he's a transsexual, or at least he thinks he is. It seemed a little jarring in the analysis that there was no indication of how he came to that.
Well, he read the case file and we didn't.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
She did give him a lot of information to look over, and it's not very. If the audience just saw PowerPoints based on everything that the police has, that's not going to be very interesting. I would say in the 2000s, when they kind of like had websites to promote a movie, and you'd get all this supplemental stuff, that would have been a really cool thing if you were marketing a movie like this now, is that you get to read the whole case file beforehand if you're one of these internet sleuths and draw your own conclusion before you see the movie. Yeah, they can't do that in the theater. She hands them, a big fucking file and of everything that they have so far, and he draws conclusions for that. But we're not privy to that because that would be boring.
That's fair. I think that's a fair analysis.
I mean, that actor does a great job being Buffalo Bill, like it's already been pointed out. He does a great job pulling off, fucking psychopathic, serial killer type motherfucker. Seeing him dance around in his house and shit, with his fucking butterflies and all that shit is really creepy. I love that they added that, component, the butterflies, because it made finding him so much easier for the FBI. It was such a big, tell once they added that addition to the film. And it totally seems believable again to me that the FBI would do like a fake deal with Lecter. That seems like a very FBI kind of thing that they would do. Poor Lecter gets fucked over, like, in that situation. Somehow Lecter knows Buffalo Bill, which is crazy. What a coincidence that Lecter would know him.
Right.
But he does. It's fucking crazy, what a coincidence that Lecter of all people would be the one that worked with this guy. Again, one of the things about The Silence of the Lambs that makes it so good is that it's very realistic. It seems like something that could really happen. And that's the way it's portrayed in the film. It's very real.
Danny, you guys want to speak to Starling's betrayal to Lecter? I mean, I'm not sure that she really knew she was offering a false deal. I think Crawford just said, here, go offer him this deal. We're going to give him this and we'll transport him over to this place and he'll get to walk out on the little island and blah, blah, blah.
No, she admits later on that she helped design the fake deal.
I think it's the other way around, Jeff. When they were having that conversation in the car on the way to the FBI Academy head and Sterling, they were going somewhere on a car ride, and they actually were talking about it. It was right after, and she was like, "Hey, there really was no deal," and like acting like as if she was being used as a tool, like a means to the ends. It was with Jack Crawford, and they were having a conversation, and it seemed as, unless maybe I'm just like not understanding what was going on, but it seemed to me as though Clarice really wasn't in on the idea, and that Jack Crawford was really gambling on this whole thing. Now, she might have guessed maybe, but she at least did in the car ride. So whether or not she had that guess when she was talking to Hannibal, I would imagine it would not have been something she guessed in the moment, because I would imagine that Hannibal would have picked it up. And I think Jack actually says that if she would have known, then he would have realized that the jig was up.
Well, that also leads us to ask the question too, why does Hannibal trust Chilton? Because he hates the doctor. I mean, hates that guy. So why would he trust him in, basically saying, hey, the jig's up, they're lying to you, but I can get you a deal. He doesn't trust this guy anymore.
Because Chilton is he gets Chilton. He realizes he's egomaniacal and he wants to talk to the press and feel big and stuff. And he doesn't let on that he's in Chilton's head.
Gotcha. Do you think when he finally does end up in Tennessee, that he's really just kind of messing with the senator? Because we know he kind of gives her some of the information, but he lies about other pieces of it. He basically gives him a proper description, but then he lies to her about the name and then starts to just ask her, do you think he's just back to his probing ways of trying to see what kind of information he can get out of her to see if he can manipulate her, mess with her later? He starts asking about the breastfeeding and stuff.
I kind of think he's just having a good time.
He was having fun with it. Yeah, he wanted to give them he ends up giving him a fake name, I think, because he really doesn't know the guy's name.
Yeah, something like Thomas Friend or something like that.
He just wanted to get
Lewis Friend.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. He wanted his opportunities, and while he's there, he didn't really want to. I don't think he wanted to talk to that woman very long, so he decided to fuck with her, and then he knew that would be the quickest way to get back out, and he succeeded.
All right. Well, and apparently, as you say, he does succeed, and but Starling's she's not accepting this, and she figures out that Lewis Friend is not a real name, and so she deciphers it and figures out it's an anagram for iron sulfide or fool's gold, and so she goes back to confront Lecter in his temporary cell at the Memphis courthouse, which I thought was kind of impressive, since it felt like they were pretty much taken off the case, and it was completely now sitting with the senator. But Lecter, he's like, okay, I'll play a little longer. And so he basically, when she kind of confronts him, he demands again, deeper revelations about her past. That, he says, if you tell me what I want to know, then I'll give you one more final clue. And so Starling's, in for penny, in for pound. So she goes ahead and recounts a traumatic childhood incident after her father's death, where she's basically shipped off to live with a cousin on their farm in Montana, and wakes up one night to screaming or crying. And it's the lambs that are crying because they're getting ready to slaughter them, do the spring slaughter. And so she freaks out about it, and she runs down there, and she's all distraught, and she doesn't, she tries to free him, but they just won't go anywhere. So she finally just rescues one of them and takes off and runs away. And Lecter really, really is in her head at this point now. And he's basically like, well, that's a hell of a trauma. And he's like, do you still hear the crying of the lambs in your head? And you can tell that this still to this day haunts her. But yeah, he has this weird moment where he's kind of like, well, maybe saving Catherine might silence the trauma. And he basically gives her that one last hint to help her maybe kind of solve this case, and maybe will help her along the way. And he looks at her and says, hey, just remember, we covet what we see every day. Then he basically hands her back the Buffalo Bill, case file, touches her. He does that little brush with his finger along hers, which she was told never to let happen. There's just that kind of one moment of intimate contact between them. And then that night, after she leaves, Lecter uses that, piece of Shilton's pen to unlock his restraints. And then he murders 2 guards that he changes into one of their uniforms. And then using the skinned face of one of the dead guards to disguise himself, he manages to escape custody, via an ambulance, and disappears. Cyber, thoughts, man?
All right. I mean, this whole sequence is just so amazing and fun. What Hannibal does here to get himself freed, to be able to escape, is just really done well. I mean, this guy is just a mastermind and just is so amazing. His conversation with Clarice is just really so well constructed and so well acted by both on their hands. And they do it so well together that, you really feel that he's really a bad guy. I think that, the whole quid pro quo thing is kind of interesting, because there's several times throughout their conversations he's not giving anything when it's supposed to be the quid pro quo thing. And so, him always saying that, and then she'll keep giving me information, and then that can help me to figure out a way to escape. So I think that their conversation is just really intense. I mean, her telling that story about her childhood and everything is just so well constructed. I can see why both of them were nominated for Oscars, just how good they were. Imagine if, Anthony Hopkins hadn't been Lecter and they went with Sean Connery. What would that have been like? Him standing there, would he have that same voice, or he'd be like, "So, Clarice, we meet again"? Who would
It would have been like The Rock.
Yes, I mean, absolutely, what the hell? Sean Connery was considered, and I think that was hilarious, and that the fact that he read the piece and found the piece revolting, and it said, "No, I don't want to do it." I was like, that sounds about right for Sean Connery, but still, I can't imagine Sean Connery, in these scenes where Clarice and Anthony Hopkins here are having these conversations. There's no way in hell that would have been intimidating at all, because I feel that
Agent Starling!
Yeah.
I found the cure for cancer, and I've lost it. There you go. That's what it would have been like. They bring a gun, and I bring a knife and fork.
And so I'm thinking to myself, wow, Anthony Hopkins, because he's such he looks like more of a shorter dude. I feel that's more intimidating for a serial killer than if you're a 6 foot tall, kind of like James Bond like guy. So I think that they went the right way with not have Sean Connery, but still, these are great sequence. Leading up to the him taking out those guards was so freaking insane, especially, and then the pure enjoyment you see on his face as he's bashing in the one guard's head.
Yeah, afterward, you notice he got distracted by his favorite part in the music. It's like, this is your escape, and you're going to stop and listen to your favorite part of the music. It's like, he is fucking crazy.
Yeah, exactly. That part always cracks me up, too, because I'm thinking to myself, you're in the midst of killing this guy. You got blood splattering all over your face, but then all of a sudden you'll stop briefly to hear a particular interlude in the music you're listening to. And I'm just yeah, definitely this guy is fucked in the head.
Every second counts.
Yeah, every second counts. The intensity on Anthony Hopkins' face and how he presents that whole sequence is so amazing and so well acted. Him coming up with the idea of putting on the skin of one of the guards, pretending he's the dead guard or the guard that's injured, And him lying himself there and then putting up the dead guard's body up in the elevator shaft is just freaking like genius. How the hell did you get captured in the first place? You know, wow, like seriously, like you came up with this plan while you were sitting in prison this whole time, like mental institution.
He's a master manipulator. He knew this is going to trigger this human behavior, and I'm going to play into this part, and this is going to lead to my freedom. I'm going to be the victim. And, and let someone console me even. And it's like, keep talking to him. Keep him awake. Got to save this guy.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I think this portion is really enticing. It's entertaining. It's interesting. It's insane. And at the same time, it's just so brilliantly directed by Johnathan Demme. He just did such a great job with it.
Well, and I think it's interesting that you bring up Sean Connery. And you're like, I can't even imagine, like, what would they be thinking having him do this? But the one thing we have to step back and remember, at this point, Anthony Hopkins, he's not an A-list player. This is a guy, he's been around, he's done some movies, but he is far removed from an A-list actor yet. This is the movie that puts him on the map. This is the performance that makes him a household name. And yes, it is a performance of a lifetime. You see it and you're like, I can imagine no one else being Hannibal Lecter. But before this movie was filmed, all those guys look like better options, I think, than probably Anthony Hopkins, this, no-name second-rate actor that's, been in movies but not been of anything of significance. So it's kind of a double-edged sword when we have the discussion because, yeah, I clearly can see why they would pick these other guys. And now having seen the performance years later and seen, Anthony Hopkins is now this big A-list, actor. Yeah, shit. No, there's nobody else that could ever play this role. This would not have been as good, but I can see why at the time they didn't think so. Rick, what do you think? You got any feel on the scenes or, Anthony Hopkins as a whole in this role or, at this time in this performance?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was privy to the rave of The Silence of the Lamb when it was really hot and stuff. Like I said, I was too young to appreciate it. But I do recall this being the thing that everyone talked about, like, oh, dang, man, Anthony Hopkins, someone who I never heard of ever before. But then afterwards, it was always like, oh, yeah, that was the dude from The Silence of the Lamb. You know what I mean? Definitely. And as far as these scenes go, really, really powerful scene, man. It makes sense for the movie, right, that he was in a underguarded cell that allowed him to get out. They had a troop full of people in the freaking lobby, but only two dudes monitoring the actual killer, like the psychotic cannibalistic killer.
It should have been the opposite. There's two fucking guys in the lobby and everybody else is upstairs.
I mean, I get it. It wouldn't make for a good movie if they actually made sense, but still, I gotta point that out.
Yeah, you feel like there should have been like the Stargate where they got that machine gun right at the opening of the event horizon, just waiting for something to happen. Or some guy in the back of the room was like, dude, this guy even looks at me the wrong way. I'm totally turning them into just soup. That's it,
man. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, and they had the perfect guy for that too. I don't know if you guys recognize Charles Napier over there, but the ever 80s and early 90s action support character.
Yeah. You brought it up before I could.
Warden from Ernest Goes to Jail.
Yeah, I mean, he's in everything, man. So, I mean, it was real good, real powerful. The symbolism with the lambs was like creme de la creme type stuff, And the dude, that little touch, man, that little tiny little touch with his finger, man. And I guess that they kind of went a little bit of a different direction, but I think that they kind of left it open when the film came out with that line, which I think had more than one meaning. You touched on it, Tim. It was, they covet what they see. And I think that had more than one meaning. He wasn't only talking about Buffalo Bill. I do believe that he was talking about himself as a forewarning to Clarice that, us crazy motherfuckers covet what we see. And what did he see? he saw Clarice, and we know he saw Clarice, and he coveted that, because guess what he fucking drew in that cell after the meeting? A perfect image of Clarice. That was fucking crazy. For me, I was just like, oh my God, dude, this motherfucker coming after you. He's coming after you next, all right? He's coming out. He's breaking out of this fucking cell, and he's coming after you, Clarice. Super cool jailbreak. Super cool, man. He fucking stole the dude's face, man. Stole his face, too. That was awesome. That was absolutely awesome, man.
Yeah, I like that you pointed out the whole picture thing with Clarice, and that there might be a little coveting going on there, because it has a little bit of religious overtone. There's a couple crosses in the back, very much.
Yeah.
Looks like, Mary holding that lamb, which would be Jesus, a little bit. So the Lamb of God.
And I think it's a little bit of symbolism for her morality. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He likes the purity of her a little bit, and things like that, the innocence. But whether he likes that because it's funner to toy with, or whether he appreciates it for the trueness of it, I don't know. Who knows the mind of a killer? But it is interesting that you kind of bring that up.
I could tell you for sure, from experience, it's the first one. It has to deal with the purity and the morality and the respect for that. Not that I am a killer or anything like that.
Right. I was going to ask. That was going to be a follow up. Like, well, Rick, I gotta ask, with experience, would you like to expound on that a little bit? But I mean, and that kind of ties in with the very early part of the film where, when she shows up, Chilton's like, oh yeah, he's going to like you. You're definitely his type. So yeah, I mean, even when Crawford sends her, he knows I mean, as much as Hannibal is in everybody's mind, Crawford's a little in his, and he knows who to send to try to, trip his trigger and to get him to cooperate.
Maybe Hannibal got a little bit of Dexter, or should I say Dexter got a little bit of Hannibal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. Well, Jeff, what do you think, man? You got any thoughts on any of this?
I mean, it's all been pretty much talked about, up and down at this point. So, no, I mean, really, all I guess I could really just say is just definitely the cutting off the face, impersonate another person altogether is definitely fucking like OG, like serial killer shit to do in a movie. That shit's hardcore, dude. Only Lecter would be doing some shit like that, right? You got to give Lecter props. He's very skilled when it comes to jailbreaks and shit like that.
Faking the seizure was a nice touch.
He pulls that shit off. He knows what he's doing. Gotta give him props.
All right, yeah. I gotta say the face, the cutting off the face and putting on top of, man. I'm watching this and I looked at my wife and said, oh shit, he's wearing that guard's face. Isn't my wife's watched this movie a lot. So she's just looked at me and was like, I'm not saying a damn thing. I'm like, oh crap, I know it now. Now he's wearing the face. So I was like, that's some really crazy crap. And one of the little things that I enjoyed even more is that, Joey mentioned the seizure. And he's going kind of, he's faking that seizure and stuff. But then when he gets into the ambulance, if you notice, he's got a real steady heartbeat. I think they make some comment where it's like, oh, his heart rate's like 85, which means he's super calm while he's doing this because he's so methodical. And they made a comment about that earlier where he was also performing something else. And they're like, oh, yeah, his heart rate never got over 85 while he was doing such and such. And I don't remember what the incident was, but
he was hooked up to his, for his vitals, when he attacked the nurse.
That's what it was.
And that's how they had the statistic that his heart rate didn't go over 85 when he attacked her.
Right. So, I mean, this just shows a guy who's just methodical. Like, this stuff doesn't elevate him or excite him. This is just matter of fact. This is what I do. So it's just like, wow, man, that is one stone cold killer.
It freaked me out when I was a kid. I didn't quite put two and two together what was happening with the blood dripping from the top of the elevator and all that. I didn't put it all together. But you actually, A, you were an adult, and B, you had some clues, Tim. There's a sequel. So you're like, well, how does he get out of this? And so you're thinking of like, how does he get out of this? How is there a sequel to this movie? So, and then you put two and two together before it was revealed. And then, of course, you read your wife's expression on her face. It's like, I'm right. He cut the guy's fucking face off.
Yeah. I think I was equally like, I was amazed that I figured it out, and equally appalled that that's what came to my head. I'm like, what does that say about me? You know?
No, that's why he beat the guy's face too, and the way that he killed him is because he wanted it to look all bruised and fucked up, and then cut it off. So, like, you know, they wouldn't recognize the guy,
right?
And he may have even made choices on which one he was going to kill in that fashion because he wants to choose someone who's about the same height and weight as him.
Yeah, it was well thought out and just super disturbing at so many levels. I mean, you want to be appalled at him hanging up the guard, but then you realize that's not even the tip of the iceberg here. Once you realize what it is, you're like, oh man, this is some messed up stuff. It's super, you know, uncomfortable to say the least. And, you know, and then we go back to, you know, Starling, and, you know, this is her final encounter with him, more or less. And she realizes, you know, like, look, you know, there's something more to this clue that he gave me. And she's kind of thinking about it, and she kind of deduces that Buffalo Bill, he knew his first victim, you know, which was Frederica Bimmel, who was a tailor from Ohio. And so she goes to Bimmel's home, and she kind of talks to the father, and then she asked if she could go look around. He's like, sure. And she goes around, looks around upstairs, kind of checks out a room, but then she's kind of drawn across the hallway to another room where she finds like a cabinet of unfinished dresses with like these stitch patterns that, you know, she realizes matches the patterns of the skin removed from the victims. And so she very quickly deduces now that, you know, Bill, he's looking to construct a female suit from human flesh. And, you know, they made this comment earlier that, you know, he starves these women for about 3 or 4 days before he kills them. And they're like, we don't know why. And she realizes he starves them because he wants to loosen up their skin so he can, you know, basically fillet the skin off of them before he dumps them. And he's going to use it to make this female suit. She's finally, you know, figured it out that, you know, this is what's going on. And so now she needs to desperately, you know, go find him before he, you know, fillets the senator's daughter. Meanwhile, you know, again, Crawford, he's kind of, you know, back at Quantico. He's cross-referencing, you know, Lecter's profile with records from sex reassignment clinics and offender databases. And he's trying to identify who James Grubbs is, you know, as the prime suspect.
Yeah, he's chasing the bug buyer.
Yeah,
the exotic bug buyer.
Yeah, so, you know, they both got solid parts of the puzzle that they're working with, but they still don't have the entire picture. They're still grasping at straws, trying to fill in the pieces of puzzle they're missing. So, what do you guys think about these revelations?
These revelations, you know, I feel really take the movie to a whole new level. I believe that they did it very well in the writing process of how getting this off to the right start. We have all this kind of world building and all that kind of stuff. And I appreciate that, you know, as we get further and further along the film, we're always getting more and more new information. And I think that this section here just really plays that out very well. And I think that, you know, it plays it very intelligently with how it comes to the script writing. I think overall, you know, if you were to just throw it out there without really kind of building up to it, it wouldn't have seemed as consequential. It wouldn't have seemed as something so important as it ended up being with this information comes out throughout the film. That it's that intuitive and that much thinking involved that you really are throughout the entire film. You're like, okay, I got to get from point A to point B. I got to get B to C, D to F. You know, it all plays out so well. All that information that we get there just really applies to the film very well. And I just think it's really entertaining, enjoyable, and just really brings a lot to the table. You know, I think there was a lot of great information that we get. We get little hints that they, you know, would pop up and like kind of have Lecter or some other characters kind of mention certain things. And when you get to this point in the film, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I remember in that part of the film that they kind of mentioned that and this and that. So I think the whole movie itself is just a great kind of like puzzle piece that you're just finding the clues throughout the whole entire film. And then once you get to this point, you get that great kind of like climactic answer, which just makes it really enjoyable. So yeah, really done well.
All right. Well, Jeff, now that we've had these revelations and we see that Starling and Crawford are kind of both pulling at some threads, trying to figure it out to, finally nail down who this killer is. What are your thoughts on that?
There's not really a lot going on there, Tim. I mean, that section of the movie is very short, and then it goes right to the end, so I don't really have a lot to say about it. I mean, really, there's not a lot of really like the revelations. I mean, they pretty much just figure out, the name, and then Starling just kind of, bumps right into, Buffalo Bill. They kind of fall into it. I don't know about the revelations. Yeah, it's a good build up. There's not really a lot going on in this part of the film. So yeah, that's it, Tim.
All right. What do you think, Joe? You got any ideas or thoughts on that, or these revelation scenes and where it's going to lead us?
I had a flashback of seeing it when I was younger, when I saw them take a picture of like the inside of her mouth, and that's obviously like a person there who's just acting dead, and it's gross, and I don't know if I want to look up to see the actor's credit for laying on the table, but I hope they compensated her fairly, because that didn't look like it was fun to shoot.
No, especially having to do it completely naked and everything. It's just sitting out on a cold metal slab the whole time. That cannot be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I hope it was a closed set, but at the same time, you've got so many fellow actors like walking around you. It's like you could just have like, the cameraman, the director, but then you've got like the 6 fucking actors in the room.
Yeah.
You got Bob the Goon, Joker's right-hand man. By the way, the only guy who doesn't put the stuff under his fucking nose, because I guess he's used to it. I don't know.
Oh, they really kind of sold that well too. I mean, they're passing that around and everything, and even after they put that on their noses, you could just, as you said, if you've ever smelled something dead, you could almost smell it coming off this film, and you could see it in their faces.
It's nasty. But when she looks at the picture they just took of the throat, and she's like, oh, there's something in her throat. Then you got Bob the Goon there. That actor, I can't remember his name right now. Good friend of Jack Nicholson, by the way. It's like his golfing buddy. That guy like chimes in and he goes, well, often when we find, the bodies found in the water, they get, leaves or debris in their mouth. And it's not leaves or debris.
Yeah. How about you, Rick? Any thoughts before we move on to the ending here?
Yeah, so I found that to be kind of interesting that they actually did recover the larvae or whatever it was, the chrysalis, in that oftentimes these type of killers will attempt to leave clues so that they can be found. And sometimes they actually get offended when detectives can't find them and don't understand the clues that they're leaving.
Almost so counterintuitive, isn't it? It's just weird.
I mean, hey, they are crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, and you see it even with Hannibal Lecter. I mean, he's left and right using these anagrams and different little clues to have mind game with all the people who he's having conversations with. But yeah, I thought that was cool. And also in the scene right before this, when she's left in the lobby and they're having a conversation separate from Clarice, she has a flashback. And I don't know if you guys caught this, but she walks into where this wake was, and you, for just a moment, you actually get to hear the organ that's being played for the recent passing of the victim in this particular scene.
That wasn't a victim. Like, they didn't have their own, like, there's a local shithole town where they didn't have, like, a separate morgue. It's like they had the victim's body at the fucking local funeral home. So she's just walking in on, like, the local funeral.
Yeah. So, but she has a flashback, and it covers the music of the organ, and you get a totally different feel. It like this Howard Shore's score completely changes the feel, and you are emotionally drawn into what she's going through as she's reliving what it looked like was her father's wake. And I thought it was emotionally charged, very powerful scene in that. And then when she comes to, the score ends, and then you hear the organ again, and then you get to see the next scene, which is when they find the chrysalis inside the throat and whatever, which was pretty cool. Dude, I used to work not very far away from Calumet City, where just south of Chicago, where they're supposing that some dude has some girl. I'm gonna tell you right now, dude. No. I knew immediately that was bullshit. I knew immediately that was bullshit, bro. Like, no, I don't know how Quantico was fooled. There's no motherfucking crazy dude capturing girls from all over the place, and they happen to live in Calumet City, Chicago. Like that, no, that's not for real. As soon as they said that, I was like, nah, bullshit. Clarice is right. They should be going over to the boonies over in what was it, Tennessee or whatever the heck she was,
West Virginia-ish.
I was like, that's where the killer is, y'all. All right, that's where the killer is.
Yeah, they went all in. It's like, let's send the whole fucking SWAT team there. It wasn't like they
C-130 and everything, man. Like, what the hell, dude?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, let's stake it out and interview some people. And it's like, oh, we think that's a suspect. And then it's like, when you know the suspect is fucking home, that's when they all show up and storm the fucking place. That would have never happened. Especially now, they could see through walls and see if there's like, someone, a live body inside with heat before they even fucking go in the building. But in an editing perspective, it did give us an opportunity to fool the audience into thinking that they were going to storm Buffalo Bill's house when it was actually Clarice who answers the door.
Well, we're getting a little ahead, so let's probably move into that then. So, basically they've pulled on the threads and they know that it's James Gumb now. That's the prime suspect. Starling and Crawford have two different ideas on, where he's at. So while Crawford's team, he's basically, like you said, he's in the big C-130 and they're heading to Gumb's vacant, Illinois residence. But, Starling, she's like, I don't think that's quite right. So she goes to interview, Bimel's acquaintances. And she ends up arriving at a house where Gumb is living under the alias of Jack Gordon. And I like how they do a little smoke and mirror action for us here, because they try to do that like, oh, it looks like they're all going to the same place, but they're not.
Tim.
What's that?
Tim, I gotta ask, who the fuck was taking those photos of that girl, man? Like, you gotta be thinking, you saw, how she thought, like, who the fuck is taking those pictures, bro?
Yeah.
Like, and I don't mean it in that, yo, she's big. I mean it in that, who is taking those photos? Just who? Like, what's happening? Why has she got these photos?
What photos?
The ones they find in the music box, the little jewelry box. Yeah, I thought that was a little weird too.
Nude photos taken from Polaroid or some shit.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought that was weird that was never explained, because it's obviously not Gumb. I mean, I at least I don't believe it is. So,
right.
But they did say he knew who she was, so maybe he did take them, and then he kind of snapped and took it a little too far, and that was the end of that. I don't know. They never really explained that part of it, but it is an interesting and kind of an unexplained part of the film, because I thought that was odd too, because it's not like she went down to Glamour Shots and had those things taken. She's just trying to kind of hide it or something. That was somebody's like, hey, strip down your underwear, let me take a couple photos. And then usually the person who takes them is the person who keeps them, not the person who's had them taken of themselves. I thought that was odd too, like that she would keep these. And it's not the day and age of these selfies. So I don't know. Yeah, that is a good question. And maybe somebody will have an idea. We'll put a pin in that. And if anybody's got any ideas when we get to the end here, maybe you can kind of tell us what you think.
If you know who took the photos, please email us at mamreviews@gmail.com.
Yeah.
We don't fucking know.
Yeah, there we go. But getting back to it, once she realizes that she arrives at Jack Gordon's house and she starts to question him, his facade crumbles, especially when she spots the death head moth. And now it's game on, because she's like, oh shit, this is the dude. Like, this is it. I'm in the house with the killer. And this is the part that everybody kind of poo-poos a little bit on this movie. They're like, look, the FBI would never send a single agent to a serial killer's home, let alone a trainee. This would just never, ever happen. As far as the film goes, it's probably one of the grossest negligent things that they did as far as that would go, that this would not happen. Now, my understanding is in the book, somehow she had gotten suspended, and then she had decided to continue on with the investigation on her own accord. And that's how she ends up there.
Therefore, it makes
and that
sense
seems a
that
little bit
she's
more
putting
plausible.
herself
Maybe
in
they
peril
should
like a
have
dumbass.
taken a couple extra minutes to flesh that out and make that happen. But I guess if you really don't care about how things will work in the real world, you just go with it. But yeah, it's kind of a glaring error as far as, FBI protocol goes. But anyway, once she realizes that, this is the guy, and he realizes that the jig is up too, she draws her weapon, but he quickly retreats down into his basement labyrinth. And I will call the labyrinth, that's the biggest damn basement I have ever seen in my entire life. And, basically he's hoping to, that she's going to go down there.
You haven't seen Barbarian, Tim.
Clearly I have
There's a bigger basement. There's a bigger basement.
Okay.
Hey, like I said, no damn way this will take place in Calumet City, all right?
Yeah. Unless they've got a basement that is under 4 people's homes. That's all I can think of.
Yeah, and that's not happening in Calumet City.
No. But, Gum's basically, retreats down there hoping to ensnare Starling. Pursuing Gum into his basement, she discovers Catherine is trapped in this weird dry well, which would almost be a sub-basement unto itself. Really weird. Like, not only is it a cement basement with 10,000 rooms, but then there's this weird room that has this odd dry well that's perfectly cut out and, basically masoned all the way down to the bottom. And once she discovers him, of course, he decides, well, I'm going to just go ahead and shut the power down because, hey, guess what I got? I've got night vision. So he pops those night vision goggles on, and Starling's forced to start feeling her way around the Dungeon of Doom down there. And he's kind of infatuated with her. He doesn't seem like he wants to just shoot her. I feel like
he's playing with his food.
Yeah, I think he's infatuated with the hair. So my take on it was that he didn't want to shoot her in the head because I think he wanted to take that hair and make it part of his costume. And that's what ultimately gives him away. He ends up, kind of getting behind her, and he cocks the revolver. And that, of course, gives her a bearing as to where he's at. She whips around and just unloads on him, kills Gum, and, by doing that is able to rescue Catherine. Then, we kind of flash forward a little bit. We see Starling, at her graduation at the FBI Academy. And during her graduation celebration, who calls but Lecter himself from, an unnamed tropical location. And he asks Starling if the lambs have stopped screaming, and assures her that he has no intention of pursuing her, requesting that she, return the favor, which she promptly declines. And Lecter informs her that, look, I got to go because I don't want to be traced. And hey, I'm about to have an old friend for dinner, before you see him trailing a blissfully unaware Shilton who is vacationing in the Bahamas.
That is awesome.
Go ahead, Jeff. Give us your thoughts on the end of the movie here. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a really solid ending. Ending it off, with the cliffhanger of Lecter calling Starling is genius, and it really plays really well in the film. Hits really well. Yeah, that is a massive basement without question. It's big, a lot of doors down there, a lot of rooms. That's a great set of scenes. The lights getting turned off and seeing Starling, fumbling in the dark and everything. With him using the night vision glasses or goggles or whatever. It's a classic fucking scene. Really well done. They pull off him getting shot really well too. He looks great dying. Great film death. Lecter letting Starling know that he's not out to get her, is not surprising because you could kind of tell that Lecter has an affinity for Starling, obviously, which overall just a great film, a great watch, very, very rewatchable film for me at least. And, the good guy wins and saves the girl. I love that chick in the pit yelling at Starling, like, you dumb bitch, fucking let me out,
Yeah, for sure.
The fuck? Don't leave me. You know what I'm saying? Come on. She got the fucking dog down there. She got the dog somehow, She like knocked it down with the tray or whatever that she had or whatever, some shit.
The bucket.
She like knocked it down or whatever, and caught it.
That was clever. That was real clever.
And then she walks out with the dog, like holding it and shit, like it became her dog or some shit in another world, like that's another story for another film, right? But she walked out with the dog, she didn't kill the dog. I would have been depressed if she'd killed the dog,
Right.
That guy was just going to shoot her, in that pit. So Starling really caught her right at the right time. She saved her fucking life for real. That's it, sir.
All right. Well, Dungeon Master, how does the dungeon basement of doom fall for you?
It was very exciting. I'll just go ahead and say that right off the bat. The thrilling aspect definitely came to a head. You've got all the pieces in play. I've talked about the music a bunch of times, so the music is where it's at. And by the way, I hadn't actually mentioned of how the music does hype up the thrilling aspect of the emotion, but it really does throughout the film, and it does so very powerfully here. The other thing is, man, I'm so glad that you mentioned already that there was a bit of an issue with her being there by herself, but even her being there by herself, man, like, you're gonna go after this dude alone like a fucking cowboy or something like that in the Wild West. Like, there's no way you can try to get any sort of backup. There's nothing you can do. I mean, I don't know, dude. I don't know. I mean, in the moment, she's like not all the way trained, I guess, I mean, I don't disbelieve that this is what would happen. I do. I think, sometimes people get in the moment, they don't know what the hell's going on, and she's like not seasoned or anything like that, And we've seen throughout the whole film that she has actually been having trouble with the actual the physical as well as the combat aspects of being an FBI agent. She's by no means on the top of the class when it comes to that type of expertise. So in that, it does kind of make sense that she would potentially make a judgment call that might not be the best. I mean, we don't know exactly if there was a phone in sight. Back then, there probably was. Back then, people had phones in the fucking wall with a cord that was 15 feet long. You know what I mean? So yeah. I would imagine that she could have probably just hit 911, said her address of where she was just at, and then proceeded, to do some cowboy shit, But
well, it breaks the cardinal rule. You always call for backup. Yeah. You especially don't go on to some creepy ass dungeon basement to try to follow this guy by yourself. Like, yeah, it was the dumbest thing anybody could do. And if she was going to do it, you're right. Dial 911, just toss the phone on the counter. Cops will show up. They have to. They ain't got a choice. They got to show up if that phone's just sitting there.
Yeah. So, but again, she's kind of green, and I guess maybe that is a reason why that happened. So, okay. The part where the night vision goggles come into play, that was cool, and I do appreciate how we had a little bit of that tiny little snippet of him actually showing us that he has these things. And so it's nice that we got the tool in advance showing that that's gonna be a big part here right now. And I think it was like a power play. I think Joey's right. It was like a feeling of unimaginable power that he had. And it was more than just he knew he could take her life at any moment, because Jodie Foster played it maybe a little bit over the top. She might not have been the top of her class with her combat skills, but she was visibly trembling in the dark. I don't know if you saw her gun wavering the way that it was, but I think that was a little bit too much, but it was still cool. I mean, with that, I think that just would spice it up a little more for the killer at that point. And I don't know, man. Even if it's pitch black, like you cannot see nothing. which I imagine that was the case. This is what it seemed like that was the case, right? You couldn't see nothing. Pitch black. Even in pitch black, like, you still can kind of sense when people are really close nearby, especially from just the gentle movement of the air when someone moves their hand nearby, because it wasn't super.
It happened to me at work today. I heard someone walk towards my desk. I had my head to the right, and then he stopped because he saw that I was doing something. He didn't want to interrupt, but I knew he was standing there and fucking staring at me.
Yeah. You could feel it. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's like more extremely practical, you know, and it's totally okay, and it makes for a really good shot. I mean, it makes for a real good shot, the way that he was playing around like that. But, all right, look, man, I think that she was lucky as fuck, man.
For sure.
I think she was lucky as fuck. And I looked this up, and from what I'm gathering from some of the community on this one, is that it just kind of shows her growth in her combat skills and stuff like that. I don't buy it, man. I do not buy it, man. Because if she was showing growth, we would have seen the growth over time with those little clips of her at the academy. But it just showed at the academy every single time that she was the one who fucked up in her combat skills. It wasn't someone else. It was a pat on the back because so-and-so did his job, but you fucked up. You didn't check the corner of the fucking door. You know, you fucked up because you didn't do this or that. Like, she didn't, it wasn't being, I don't think that it did a very good job showing that she was actually growing in that capacity so that she would have the skills to be able to be ready to react. Now she did, and I can buy that it's luck, but again, we didn't see any of her cultivating her attribute of luck, you know, her affinity with being lucky at a certain time and place, you know. So I kind of feel like there was something lost in that, you know. It was still cool though. I mean, and it could totally work, you know. I mean, for sure, it could totally work. You know, if you can hear the hammer lock, then you kind of can have an idea for where the person might be and stuff like that. And then out of panic, she fired and she got lucky. And I could buy it, but I think it could have been just a tiny little bit better on those fronts.
It's a pretty interesting analysis, but I think there's a few holes in there. I mean, simply because, one, she's still a trainee. Two, this is her first encounter in a situation, and she's not a beat cop, you know, basically chasing her first petty criminal. She's in a dark room with a man who strips the flesh off of people to make, you know, skin suits. So this is, you know, up and above your average first encounter. She's breathing super hard, so she's not going to hear anything. Her heartbeat's probably beating like, you know, like crazy. Yeah, just jackhammering in her ears. She's breathing super hard. The thing, it wasn't even luck. It was stupidity, because you've basically got, you know, Gum, who has that gun that he's carrying is a 357 Colt Python. I've shot this gun before. You do not need to cock it. You can just pull the trigger and it's going to go. So he gave himself away, giving her the upper hand. Had he not done that and just pulled the trigger, it would have been done. So, you know, I think that it was just stupidity on his behalf, because he, I think, again, was trying to preserve the body because he wanted something off of it. And I think she put herself in an incredibly stupid situation. But I don't think that this was a growth moment. I think this was I'm in over my fucking head. And I've, you know, in my quest to try to save this woman, I've put myself and her in the worst scenario possible. And this guy knows the lay of the land. Like, he turns off the lights, and he's got night vision. He's got all the advantages. And that house is pitch fucking black. I mean, I defy you, Rick, to let me drop you into an unfamiliar subterranean area like that. Let me have goggles and a gun, and I'll give you a paintball gun. We'll each have one. I bet I will win. Oh, I mean,
I bet so too. I bet so too.
Yeah.
But hey, if you have to touch my hair first, I might I don't know, dude. That might level the playing field.
Well, I am getting a little older, and I'm starting to thin out a little bit. And I do covet your hair a little, but I don't know, Joey. What do you think, man? What are your thoughts on this?
I think you're right. I think he did covet her hair. I think ultimately he was gonna shoot her and realize he couldn't have that. But in the moment, like Hannibal Lecter stopping to haphazardly listen to his favorite part of music.
We lost Joey again?
I think we lost Joey again, yeah.
Oh, right.
Fuck. By the way.
I'm talking.
Oh, now we can hear you again. Oh. And in the moment.
Oh, okay.
The last thing I heard was in the moment.
In the moment, I think you were right that he was coveting her hair, but I think he ultimately was deciding, I can't have this. I have to shoot her, for logical purposes. But he was, and then he enjoyed, kind of taunting her. But he ultimately, he's being really fucking stupid because she has a loaded gun and she is an agent by herself and she's female and smaller than him, but she has a fucking gun. And at any moment he could give himself away. And he ultimately did that. He wasn't thinking about the danger. He was thinking with his feelings, much like his victim who, in a good way, she, said, I'm going to help this guy. And then Agent Starling gets the drop on him because she's thinking with her training. And then it's just, how do I put this? It's like when Anthony Hopkins, when Dr. Lecter stops to listen to his favorite part of the music instead of, all right, now surgically, you got to go on to the next part of the plan. He gets to it, but he stops to smell the roses. He stops to listen to the music or whatever. And that's ultimately why they're outmatched and they fail because they're fucking crazy. And that's literally like lines from Red Dragon with Ed Norton as Will Graham. And Anthony Hopkins reprising his role in that prequel is like, he has to tell him, it's like, he's like, you think you won because you're smarter than me? He's like, no, you're much smarter than me. He says, you lost because you're insane. You were playing this game with a disability. So that's what happens to Buffalo Bill.
That's a pretty interesting take. What do you think, Cyber? You got any thoughts on that? Anything else you want to comment on these final scene here?
I mean, this final sequence at the end is just really fantastic. I think that nobody has mentioned the Buffalo Bill dance and the song, of course, which I think was a great take.
Oh, it's a fucking great song. And I just looked it up. 1998 song, Goodbye Horses by Q Lazarus. It was only a 2-year-old song when they were filming this.
Yes. So this song was actually picked by Ted Levine. He actually improvised the whole dance himself. This was not scripted. And originally they wanted to use Her Strut by Bob Seger for this scene. And Ted Levine's like, no, because that song is a little too fast paced. And he said Goodbye Horses is a little slower and would be would be more sexual, like what, Buffalo Bill is, being a transsexual and everything. That would work better for it. So that whole scene was improvised by Ted Levine himself, which made it so iconic and so fun, which I think was really fantastic.
He is doing a seductive style type dance, and that would be slower. And it's almost like he's trying to seduce himself in the mirror, or he's pretending that, in the mirror, there's, this is what I want someone to see. This is, and I'm doing a seductive dance. It's got to be slower.
Correct. Yes. This ultimately, him succumbing to his own, desires is what leads to his untimely death at the end of this film. I mean, that whole Pan's Labyrinth thing going on there at the end, her being in the dark and stuff, and he's got the vision goggles, and it's like he's at a way better advantage. And of course, she's trying to use some of her training and stuff like that. It's just, done very interestingly. And I think what's funny about that sequence too is like everyone's mentioned, this is the hugest ass basement anyone's ever seen. And it absolutely makes no sense how it's laid out either. Like, how the hell is it so far out, but at the same time, it basically kind of re-enters itself and all this kind of stuff. And it's kind of like, okay, why, this just seems like the most weirdest basement I've ever seen. And kind of like what everyone mentioned too earlier, it feels like it's a basement that's spread out under 4 houses too as well. Another cool little fact for you guys, which I don't know, a lot of people know, is this town where Buffalo Bill's house is, where he's keeping Catherine, is actually Ted Levine's real childhood area. That's where he actually grew up. And actually, the house they used for the film is actually the house next door was actually his childhood sweetheart's house, which I thought was kind of interesting. Ted Levine was very familiar with the area, so he was very comfortable there while filming this.
That behind the scenes filming has more fucking coincidences than the plot of this movie.
Pretty much.
Oh, it's a coincidence.
Yep. How basically the movie ends, where they get Buffalo Bill, they kill him. Charlize is able to kill him in the dark. We get that kind of great, like her, graduating academy and everything, which is interesting and very well thought out. And your basic kind of like graduation, wherever. But Hannibal calling her is just absolutely epic because you're like, ooh, is he going to come look for her? Now that he's disappeared, what's going to happen? And, they keep it very ambiguous and keep it very on point, like very much so. And we get that scene where, basically he's off in some tropical area and he's trailing Dr. Chilton, which originally the ending was actually very different. Originally, they were actually going to have it where it shows him in some sort of office where he's cutting up an orange and eating it while he's talking to Clarice on the phone. And it actually reveals that he actually has captured Dr. Chilton, and he approaches Chilton and says, "Shall we begin?" So I think that ending would have been even more interesting than the one they decided to go with.
And much more realistic than saying, "Hey, I found a phone outside of a little hut at the airport, and I'm going to call you at the exact moment that he's getting off the plane."
Yeah, yep, exactly. Yeah, I think that would have been a little more like what a real serial killer would have done too, as well. So I think that the ending is just absolutely epic and a great finale to this film. I think that everything that goes beyond this, like as kind of was mentioned before by Joey too, about how this film is one of those films that had all the five wins in the Oscars, which is Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Adapted Screenplay, which this is the last film that has actually done that in the last 35 years. And there's only been two other films that have actually done that where they've won the big five, and that was the film from 1934, It Happened One Night, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So there's only been three complete films that have had that honor of winning the big five. So not just a horror film, but a film in general. That's what Silence of the Lambs hold. It's not just for horror; it's for films of all time. So it's one of the three films that have only been able to do that in the last 35 years. But also what I found interesting too is that we're actually reviewing this wonderful film 2 days before it released 35 years ago. This got released February 14th, 1991. So I also wanted to throw that out there too, because that's such a great coincidence that we are talking about this film exactly almost on its 35th anniversary. So
proving that it's a great Valentine's Day, movie to take your love to, right?
Great Valentine's movie, yeah. I was like thinking to myself, like, Valentine's Day in 1991. I'm like, yeah. Hey, honey, let's go see a killer.
It's a love story.
It's a love story. But yeah, great ending to the film, and just all around, it's just such a fantastic film.
Well, all right, gentlemen. That is The Silence of the Lambs. But before we head to the death clock, let's see what IMDb has to say about this film. So, IMDb rates this film as 8.6 out of 10 stars, which seems to align with the enthusiasm of all of you. IMDb gives The Silence of the Lambs an overall weighted professional metascore of 86 out of 100. The movie falls just 20 short of IMDb's top 100 movies of all time. And the movie itself was a massive critical and commercial success. And as Cyber and Joey have both pointed out, it received 7 Oscar nominations, took home the big 5, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor for Anthony Hopkins, Best Actress for Jodie Foster, and Best Adapted Screenplay. As Cyber just mentioned here, it's one of the only 3 films to win the Big Five and the only horror film to ever win Best Picture. And an AI-generated summary based on IMDb user reviews says The Silence of the Lambs delves into themes of morality, gender dynamics, and the nature of evil. It explores the darker side of psychology, complex relationships, and examines women's roles in male-dominated fields. Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins' performances are lauded for their depths of realism and significantly contributing to the film's enduring impact. The movie is celebrated for its gripping narrative and thought-provoking themes, though some find its dark tone and violence a little intense. So, gentlemen, now that we have watched the film and we have talked about it at length, knowing that you only have so much time in your death clock left to watch movies, is it worth giving up 1 hour and 58 minutes of your death clock to watch The Silence of the Lambs? Cyber.
I agree. I think it's worth definitely time off your death clock. It's worth that almost 2 hour mark, because it is really just a really fantastic film from beginning to end that, after many, many watches, it's still just as good the first time you watch it and the last time you watch it. It was just a really well done, superb film that deserved every one of its Oscar wins, and just was a really fantastically made film that will go down as probably one of the greatest horror films of all time. So I think that,
right, Jeff,
definitely it's worth.
What do you think? Worth your death clock? Oh, Jeff, you're showing that you're back on iPad or iPhone again. We'll come back around to you while you fix that.
So,
how about you, Rick?
In my opinion, Silence of the Lamb, very great psychological thriller. It's got a very keen amount of detail into psychology of the individual characters, and like I said, it has an amazing score by Howard Shore that really, really does a great job to hype up the thrilling aspects of the movie. I would definitely admonish all of the listeners to take time out of their death clock in order to engage in this super fantastic film.
All right, super horror fan Joey,
100%.
what is your verdict, sir?
If you're under the shit, okay. The only people that maybe they shouldn't see this movie are people with extreme, sensitivities. I'm of the belief if you're at least 13 years old and your parents are okay with seeing you rated R movie, and they've decided you're a kid who can handle this, and you watch Silence of the Lamb. It's a cautionary tale. Keep your head on a fucking swivel. Don't be a victim. But if you're under the age of 13, or you're that sensitive kid, this movie's not for you. This movie's totally for me. It's not my favorite horror film because it's a little fucking too real. Even when it's not, the ways that it's not real, people don't have dungeon fucking prison cells. But it's too much, to watch and watch and watch again and again. But will I watch it probably every 5-10 years, or if I catch it on TV or something like that, until the day I die? Yes, absolutely. And everybody should watch it at least once.
All right. Well, for myself, this being my first viewing of this film, it did fill in a lot of holes, questions I had. Where the hell did these scenes come from? I really enjoyed it, man. This is a pretty solid flick. Really messed up, but messed up in a way that it's so close to, serial killers that we have heard about in real life that it feels like this is something that could actually happen, which I think heightens the horror for me more than a Jason Voorhees running through a camp, chopping people up with a machete. So,
by the way, tomorrow's Friday the 13th. Today's Thursday the 12th. So, but yeah, I would rather go with Jason than Hannibal Lecter because it's campy.
Yeah.
Not to meaning that it takes place in a camp.
This feels a little too close to home, almost like this could actually happen, which is what makes it so flippin' unnerving, I think. But I did enjoy it for that. I think Anthony Hopkins' performance is just off the hook good on this, and I think that's the other part that just makes it unsettling. That he's just, you see this guy and it's just like, oh my gosh, like you said, you don't look at a serial killer as this big 6'5", rock figure. It's this little itty bitty guy who's got this calm demeanor. He's the guy that's going to just mess up your whole world. And Anthony Hopkins delivers in that. Jodie Foster, super strong, super good character in this. Very believable as a kind of young, naive, still, wet behind the ears FBI agent. I love that she's the basis that will bring us Scully a few years down the road. When it comes to the X-Files, this is kind of what they base the Scully character off of.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, it's a strong female lead FBI agent.
So I love this movie, and yes, it's absolutely worth your death clock. We haven't gotten Jeff back, so I don't know if he's going to come back or if he just gave up the ghost and decided that it wasn't worth trying again. So let's jump. He's
helping a guy put a couch in the back of a van.
He might be. So let's hope
he's got that. He's a good-hearted guy. He just wants to help people.
Let's hope Jeff survives. But that brings us over to what are you watching? So Cyber, what are you watching?
Yeah. So recently I've been watching a whole bunch of different stuff. We're currently watching A Night of the Seven Kingdoms for the MCU's Bleeding Edge. We've been doing that, which has been really fun. It's a really great Game of Thrones spinoff, which has been really fantastic. I've been really enjoying it. I just recently watched a TV series called Tires on Netflix that is super hilarious and fun. Watched both seasons. Stars Shane Gillis and in a title role where it's basically about these tire warehouse guys. And it's super hilarious. If you have Netflix, if you don't have Netflix, definitely check it out on Netflix. It's really funny. And then, of course, I've just been watching a whole bunch of stuff, just movies in general, going to the theaters and stuff like that. Recently went and saw, of course, Avatar, Fire and Ash. And then, of course, seeing Greenland 2 and so forth. And then been watching TV series-wise. We've also been watching The Traitors U.S. With Alan Cummings as the host. That's been a very interesting season. It's on season 4, and that's been really fun. So, yeah, just been watching all kinds of crazy stuff, and, trying to keep up is sometimes a little difficult. But other than that, just been watching all that great stuff, and we'll be watching some Apple TV movies here for the podcast, the MC's Bleeding Edge, over the next couple Fridays. So, if you guys get a chance to and you've listened to the Man Reviews podcast, come over and check out the MC's Bleeding Edge.
All right. Well, how about you, Dungeon Master? What have you been watching, either, anime-wise or, outside of, really, really long anime titled movies or shows?
All right. So I've got some good ones. Unfortunately, they don't have super long names, but they are good. I too have been watching A Night of the Seven, and dang, bro, this last episode that came out was episode 4, and oh my god, bro, if you have not been watching it and you want to watch something that kind of harkens back to the age when Game of Thrones was something special, this is a different kind of special. But geez Louise, man, I'm so excited to see where this thing is going to go, because right now it is just hitting it out of the ballpark. So as far as other things that I've been watching, okay, there's this one. It is called The Spirit Chronicles, Sire Gensoki, Spirit Chronicles. And this one, super duper good. Like, okay, you guys remember in the movie Princess Bride, at the very beginning, Peter Falk is talking to his grandson about, him staying home, and instead of them playing video games or whatever, he's going to read this book that his father, read to him, and he read to his father, and so on and so forth, or whatever, right? And he says that this book has like everything, right? He says that the book has fencing, fighting, torture, revenge, giants, monsters, chases, escapes, true love, and miracles. Literally, Spirit Chronicles, I I make a honest plea here, an honest case that Spirit Chronicles does it better than The Princess Bride, you guys.
Wow.
Yes, this one, Spirit Chronicles, it will get your blood boiling. You've got some serious things happening with vengeance and cruelty and torture. And I mean, it's got it all. It's got literally, I think what they did, they must have watched The Princess Bride and be like, nah, man, we can take that bid and actually cash in even more than The Princess Bride. So, mad respect for this one. And the thing that's really surprising, it's been out for since 2021, and I've never heard of it. I watched it. Fantastic. The other one that I watched that was fantastic, I've seen a couple other ones that were not super duper good, but I do really want to mention this one because I thought this one was pretty fantastic as well. And this one is called A Returner's Magic Should Be Special. And this one's really cool for a different reason. This one, the premise is like there's this group of powerful adventurers, and the very first scene, they're trying to take down this epic level boss monster dragon, okay? And unfortunately, they take it down, and they think it's all good. They save the day, and the world is saved. And they're talking about, why did it lead to this point? And they're talking about how before the war, nobles were basically using their positions of power to undercut the merit of the lower classes when they're trying to get into these academic schools to be able to train and how to be more powerful mage or whatever, And it just so happens that as a result, they just actually didn't have enough power to kill the end boss. This, by the way, this is the first opening scene. So everyone fucking dies. The whole world ends. And one of the characters is so charged with it being just impossible, that this cannot be the end, that he's allowed a chance by the divine beings, the creator or whatever, to be able to redo the past and try again. And this time, maybe he can make a difference. So this one is really, really good. I mean, I've seen this type of anime premise before, but not quite like this. This one was good. This one is called A Returner's Magic Should Be Special.
All right. Sounds very interesting. What about you, Joey? What have you been watching?
Coincidentally, since I kind of brought it up a little bit before, since this is an episode all about coincidences. The From Dusk Till Dawn and From Dusk Till Dawn 2, Texas Blood Money. I happened to notice that that From Dusk Till Dawn actually you can watch it in 4K on Paramount Plus. Thank you very much, by the way, Tim. Sharing is caring. And I'm really hoping it gets a 4K release so I can watch it, less compressed. And I'd caught some of it earlier, like about a week or so ago, and I stopped at the perfect, stopping point because it's almost like two different movies. I stopped, right when they're, they just crossed the border, and then I picked back up. It is
two different movies. Yeah. I've always said that. It's two fucking movies.
And I'm okay with that. I love it. And then I picked back up, again, where they crossed the border, and then we turn into a completely different movie. Like Joey it's again. One movie in the United States, it becomes a different movie in Mexico. And then the autoplay went while I was listening to the ZZ Top music during the credits, and I was washing some dishes, and autoplay started to play Texas Blood Money, which I haven't seen since a very long time ago. I remember renting it on VHS and hoping that Bruce Campbell, there was rumors Bruce Campbell is going to play, he's going to replace George Clooney as Seth. And it's like, it has nothing to do with that. So it's Scott Spiegel, the late, great Scott Spiegel, who's recently passed away, of Evil Dead fame, and the guy who's tried to eat Spider-Man's pizza in one of the movies, and it gets swept away from him. He directed it and co-wrote Texas Blood Money. And one of its stars is the T-1000, Mr. Robert Patrick. And then, of course, we get the guy who plays the fisherman in the the two I Know What You Did Last Summer movies that are actually worth watching. And we also get Tuco from Breaking Bad and Dances with Wolves co-stars movie show The Closer and Major Crimes. That actor's in it. He's amazing in it. And we also get, of course, the big bad of the movie is I can't remember his name, but he's the pawn shop guy from Pulp Fiction with one different colored eye. And he's actually in a lot of movies, but this is one of the few that I recognize him in because it's kind of not that far away from when he filmed Pulp Fiction, and he has similar hair. It's got a terrible, like, cheap sounding score. That's the only thing really working against it. I love it. It's a goofier version of From Dusk Till Dawn. It's goofy throughout, and they're constantly just trying to put the camera in all these odd places throughout it, and even there's a bite cam. So like they created these giant vampire teeth to come down and go around the camera, so you get the experience of like it's coming at the actor. It's a fun, weird little sequel, and I recommend it. It's not as good as From Dusk Till Dawn. Neither is the third one, which is a prequel, and it's good, but they're almost better. They have some so bad it's good moments, but I recommend all three. But From Dusk Till Dawn is one of my favorite movies, and Sinners it's a copy of that, and it's going to be really strange if Sinners tops or matches Silence of the Lambs in its awards, because it's derivative, and it is nominated for almost all the same awards, except it's not an adapted screenplay, it's original screenplay. But still, it's Big Five. It's a screenplay award. So it's going to be real interesting to see what's going to happen very soon here. And I don't know all the other movies that are nominated, but like I won't mind if is an older actor who's finally getting his due. He shouldn't really be nominated for Sinners, but he's been in everything else, and he's a really good actor. I hope he gets Best Supporting Actor. But other than that, I really, you're going to have to go back in time and give the Oscar to From Dusk Till Dawn, because Sinners, what the fuck? It's not bad, but it's a what the fuck movie, kind of like From Dusk Till Dawn. And From Dusk Till Dawn's got a better fucking ending that's not drawn out and all over the place either.
Yeah, first time that I saw Dusk Till Dawn, I was watching with my long time ago stepdad, and he was thinking that the movie was good for the first movie part, and then the second movie part, he's like, "What the fuck? Why did this happen? Why are the vampires all of a sudden? It was good all the way up until here."
That's how I felt about it as well.
Well, you got to think Tarantino helped write it, but he's also a director. So it's almost kind of like Tarantino, it's like, I'm going to let Robert Rodriguez do the cinematography for the first half, but I'm really going to kind of direct the first half of the movie. And then I'm going to let Robert do his thing and go off the wall with the effects and all the action shots in the second half.
Yeah.
I just never been a fan. I always felt like it was a little sloppy. Like, it's just like, make up your mind what movie you want to make, or make two movies and then make them connect somehow. I'd be fine with it.
I got a question. What have you been watching, Tim?
Yeah, I'll go keep it short and simple. I finally finished Yellowstone 1923 with my wife, and then that catapulted us back to watch the one season of 1883. So we rammed, our way through that one in about 2 days, 3 days, something like that. And that's been about it. And I'm going to probably start watching, Yellowstone, the original proper, the current version one. So
I got to ask Tim,
you haven't seen actual Yellowstone?
No. We started at 1923, watched the first season, waited a long time, finally picked up the second season.
He's watching in chronological order.
Yeah, and it's like, well, crap, there's a prequel to this one, so let's go watch Sam Elliott. So we watched that one. And then it's just like, well, now we need to go watch the Cardboard Costner 5 seasons worth if I can make it, and we'll watch that, which I think will be fine. I hear it's a great series. So
yeah, you'll like it.
Have you purchased any of the frozen dinners that are branded Yellowstone?
I have not. I'm not that big of a fan. I just,
there are many.
I enjoy the films. I was a little disappointed that I felt like there was some scenes in the 1883 series where they interact with some Indians, and I felt like they boldly stole that from Dances with Wolves, since we just did that one. It released it literally yesterday as of this recording. But they made it a little good because they put Graham Greene in there. So as long as you're going to steal but put the main actor back in there, I guess you're all right. But there was a scene with the helmet that I felt was lifted completely from that movie. It was like, man, come up with something original.
Yeah. It coincided, like some of the stuff coincided with what was going on at the time, the current season with Yellowstone.
Yeah.
So, but not all of it.
It's all right though. I mean, it was still good. I was happy to see Graham Greene, and I'm glad he got, one more send off, doing an actual Native American part before he passed away. So that did tickle me and made me a little happy. Even though I understand that was, 3 or 4 years ago and he might have done something since then, but I'm going to go with that because that's how I felt about it. But yeah, so that now takes us, gentlemen, to the shameless plugging portion of the show. Cyber, I'm going to go back to you. I know you kind of covered it a little bit during the What Do You Watch, but if you want to kind of cover it for yourself, and then for you and Jeff, if you want to just do another shout out about your channels, now's the time.
All right, folks. So if you enjoyed me or Jeff here on the Middle-Aged Men Reviews, you can check out our stuff. You can find me under Cybernetic Shark or the MCU's Bleeding Edge. I am a co-host on there along with my solo content. That's under Cybernetic Shark. You can find Jeff on the MCU's Bleeding Edge as the other co-host where we do weekly shows. But yeah, if you want to check out our stuff, check us out on YouTube. We're both on YouTube. And you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and all those kind of great places. And as we are currently reviewing A Night of Seven Kingdoms, we are doing that on Wednesday. So if you want to check out to see our thoughts on that show, definitely check us out on Wednesdays. And we appreciate you guys for having us on here tonight. And as always, a pleasure. And if you guys enjoyed us here on this wonderful podcast, check us out on our solo podcast.
All right. Well, thanks again, Cyber, for joining us. Tell Jeff when you see him, because you may talk to him long before I do, that sorry he was having such problems with his microphone, but we really enjoyed having him on. As always, you guys are always welcome back anytime. We love having you. Rick, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you outside of the Middle Age Movies podcast?
All right. Well, if you are trying to get some tips and trick videos or walkthroughs on games such as Dark Souls, Bloodborne, any Souls-like type game, as well as RPG, tactical RPGs, things of that nature, such as Fell Seal, Arbiter's Mark, Tactics Ogre, Dealfield Chronicles, those type of games, then go to my channel, which is the Dungeon Master Elite. That is Dungeon Master Elite. That is the name of my channel, and there's no spaces in the name. And you will definitely find a good and healthy amount of help with some of these more difficult games. If you're having trouble, check it out.
All right. As for me, you can only find me here on the Middle Age Movies podcast. I don't dwell anywhere else on any of the social media. So as always, if you want to get a hold of me, send an email to manreviewspodcast@gmail.com. Matt will tell me that you've emailed me or any of us, and we will, answer you either in the actual podcast itself, or hell, if I'm really feeling up to it, I might even email you back. So with that, thanks for listening to Middle Age Movies podcast and our review of The Silence of the Lambs. We hope you've enjoyed it, because I know we'd love to have you for dinner. And if you did enjoy the review, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share with your friends. Help us grow the MAM community so we can continue to keep you from wasting your precious death clock on crappy movies. And remember, you can follow us on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, and Instagram. Have a comment or suggestion? Then, just like I said, you can email the show at manreviewspodcast@gmail.com. And hell, we might even get back to you.
Thanks. Stay cool, and bye, everyone.
A fun fact, the real name of Precious the dog was Darla. And Darla has a wonderful filmography as the Pink Poodle in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, as Dottie in Coming to America, as Queenie, of course, in The Burbs.
When the lights go down, the big screen gets so bright. I got my favorite beverage, snacks, and my chair feels right. Yeah. Color, silent, black and white. You never know what's on that screen tonight, but you're gonna find out on Middle-Aged Movie Reviews. Well, will I like it? Will I like it? 'Cause you know the death clock. No, it's not rewinding. No, will I like it? Will I like it? 'Cause you know the death clock. No, it's not rewinding. Oh, will I like it? Will I like it? 'Cause you know the death clock. No, it's not rewinding.